Welcome to the area beyond the white curtain. Once again, this will be the first episode of many, and with any luck, it resonates with you quite well as it has with me when I selected the topic. Now, I considered how I should start these, and perhaps it's with a quote, perhaps it's with a verse from some book, some text. I'm still up in the air, and I'm sure as we go through this journey together with surprising posts here and there and in between everything, you guys could help me cultivate some stronger sense of identity. Though I stay a shadow with my identity unprovided, it allows for a stronger sense of anonymity that I believe will allow my voice to resonate with you a little bit better. With that being said, the thought that first entered my mind when selecting today's episode and the topic for it was a quote where a young man said, "I want to learn and understand more to better help people." And I think this is a mindset that crosses quite a few people's minds at a time. But they do say that ignorance is bliss, and I myself have come to realize that that is quite true. The biggest thing when it comes to being ignorant is a simple fact that you don't know. And not just a simple not knowing, not the choosing not to know, you just simply don't know. You're enjoying a life and you only see as much as your brain can populate, as much as your brain can make sense of. Everything outside of that is just foreign to you. It doesn't exist. But you reach a point where that ignorance is a bliss tends to fade. Now, some people never reach that phase of life, and I genuinely am envious of them because for me, myself, it just hasn't been in the cards. I've always been a particular individual that many thoughts might go to mind and many things might not make sense in the moment, but it was something that would ultimately replay over and over until I was able to make sense of it. I could never escape the desire and the hunger to hunt for the truths of the world and the truths of other people, more importantly. And being that human beings are a social people, a social being, it makes it rather difficult because you always find yourself wanting to understand more about people, wanting to know more. The reason why people gossip is because they want to understand and they want to share information. They want to be heard. They want to be felt. You have two ears and a single mouth because, as some people say, you should hear twice as much as you speak. And yet, everybody cries out. Everybody wants to be heard. But there's too few people that listen. And so, it brings us back to the quote, "I want to learn and understand more to better help people." Because in this world, I've realized there are so many people whose minds cry out, their hearts cry out, and nobody listens. Or people think they're listening and they're not just listening hard enough. They feel as though they understand the person, but the other person has a level of depth that they could never understand. The feeling of sonder, the feeling of truly recognizing that there's another person and each individual human being you meet is living their own version of a first-person reality that you yourself are also experiencing. Each person's as deep and genuinely thought-provoking as the next. Now, of course, some people have different ideas of enjoyment, different ideas of sadness, happiness, all the emotions around the wheel. And they've all experienced different stages of life that have cultivated those opinions within themselves. But within that, there still lies the simple fact of the matter that they're just people at the end of the day, as we all are. Now, I don't find myself to be an extremely religious individual, but within the book of Ecclesiastes, it says, "The greater my wisdom and the greater my grief, to increase the knowledge only increases sorrow." That parallels the initial quote that started this episode because you reach a point where it becomes pain-stricken to understand more. You wish you could learn it less. You wish you could unlearn what you've already learned, and there's no saving you. You're forced to continue on and on and on, and there's no true escape from it. You just find yourself stuck in a position to where you have to continue. You have to learn more. Your brain hungers more and your heart tells you to stop, but you must continue because there is no saving you. It's just you. You're living your own first-person point of view reality that other people can only learn up to a certain depth because they themselves are also living their own reality and don't have the time to truly take in everything that you are. But still we seek to be understood. We still want people to understand where we come from, why we are the way we are, why we think the way we think, why we speak the way we speak, why we do as we do. And on the other side of that coin, we also wonder why others are the way they are, why they think the way they think, why they speak the way they speak, and why they do as they do. And it's simply the duality of that thought that truly piques my interest because, in fact, I know who I am. I've known for quite some time, but I've tried to deny it. I'm sure some people hearing that also felt that within themselves, and then you have others who quite simply don't know who they are yet. And life is a long and arduous task, and one that only ends in death. But the point of life is to live. It's to have something to your name. You can't take it with you once you pass, but you want to leave in the memories of your loved ones, individuals you meet on a daily basis, just anybody willing to listen. A thought of yourself. You want people to remember you. Everybody fights futilely to be remembered in the long, continuous strand of time that is unending and stops for no man. Yet we find ourselves continually trying in vain, building castles, building homes, building buildings, building empires, building dynasties, piling up stats in a record book, putting together words and creating speeches so masterfully crafted you would think the gods themselves made them. All to be understood, to be felt, to be heard, and to be remembered. But we find ourselves even now looking back on the ancient Romans, looking back at the ancient Egyptians, looking back at even so far as the hunting-gathering peoples of the past. And we think we understand them. But every few years, every few days, every few weeks, we find ourselves in a situation where some new news that has never been heard before comes out of the woodworks, and we never really understand where exactly that came from. Sometimes it's from fossils, sometimes it's from archaeological discoveries, whatever the case may be. It's just something. And so it allows us to understand them more, but we can never truly understand them because we didn't live in that time. Just like we don't live in our neighbor's time or our sisters, our brothers, our parents, our grandparents, our children. We're just people at the end of the day. People fighting to be remembered and people wanting to be understood and to understand. And that's why I find ignorance to be so blissful, because an individual that can be so self-centered and so selfish as to focus on themselves their entire life and seek no desire to understand what lies beyond, what goes on in another man's head, what goes on in another woman's head, what child thinks, and what drives them into their daily routines. We find ourselves wondering at times what makes others tick, and for those that are ignorant and live in it blissfully, they don't have that problem. They're not plagued with that sickness. It just allows them to go free. And that is why I am envious, because I was never allowed to be free. My mind was tainted with such a sickness that bothers me daily. Each person I meet, I will question why they exist, what their purpose is, what they do, who they are, who they know, what they know, and what makes them who they are. Because I know who I am. But I know even if I asked them who they are, most of them would just give me a name. There are very few that would elaborate or skip the introduction of names and merely tell me their story. But it's that few that you'll find are truly the cursed ones. Because when our eyes meet, they will understand the genuine question I'm asking. I'm not asking, who are you, but who are you? And if you cannot tell the difference, you might simply say your first name, perhaps your last as well. Perhaps you'll say where you come from. But where do you really come from? What experiences have you experienced? What places have you been? What things have you seen? What has made you into the person you are? A blissfully ignorant person has no worry in the world. They don't concern themselves with such trivial questions. But those that are cursed with understanding and the desire to understand others are plagued with this issue on a daily basis, be it not even around the individuals that they don't know. The worst questions come around people that they do know, because you see these people on a daily basis, whether it be a beloved family member or a friend. It could be a cat, a dog, a bird, whatever the case may be. And we simply want to understand why they are what they are, why they think the way they think. Even in the system of siblings, and just enjoying the lives that you have around your fellow individuals growing up within your same age bracket, you find yourself wondering how they could possibly think the way they think and make certain decisions, because whether they be boneheaded to you or just so intelligent you couldn't possibly understand, it still is intriguing to you, because why? What has pushed you in your life when we have nearly experienced the same lives growing up from the same womb, and yet we're different? We've grown up in the same house, eaten the same food, gone to the same schools, eaten, lived the same days, enjoyed the same time, albeit I myself or they slightly longer than the other. But still, why are our thoughts so different? And that just continues the loop, because we want to understand. But there's only so much we can understand, because our time is finite, our resources are finite, our lives are finite, and one day we will be laid down to rest. And there will be nothing left but the memories and creations that we were able to create in our existence. And those that love us will always remember us for what we tried to do best, but that's it, our best. And so with that, I leave you with a simple thought. And really just a simple question, honestly. Are you of the blissfully ignorant? Or are you of the pain-stricken that have been provided the enjoyment of being so sick as to be wanting to understand, to want to hear, to want to know what makes people who they are? I know which one I fall under. But my question is, which are you? As always, thank you for coming to the place beyond the white curtain. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you find this to be your niche area of life, and perhaps I'll find you on another late night in due time, my friend. Until we meet again.